The Chris DeGaulle Show podcast.
Hey, this guy deserves every bit of attention that he's getting. I was so happy to see Tucker Carlson invite him as a guest on his wildly popular X show, formerly on Twitter, now called X. I think tens of millions of people are watching these Tucker shows on Twitter now. Vince Everett Ellison, who's been a guest of this show before, and Tucker's before when he was on TV. I think an even bigger audience now on social media. Vince has a brand new book called Crime Inc., How Democrats Employ Mafia and Gangster Tactics to Gain and Hold Power. Vince, welcome back to the show. First of all, congratulations. I am thrilled for you because you deserve the platform, and I'm wondering what the response has been since you appeared there with Tucker.
Man, it has been crazy. I saw a video today. I posted it on my Facebook page. Y'all just go Vince Ellison on Facebook. It's these 4 young black men. Look like they're all under 25, and they have this podcast, and they talk about events. And they have the Tucker video up, and they are responding to my interview. And they have under their podcast the caption, "The best Tucker interview ever."
Wow! And
they are wilding out as I give my statements about George Floyd, about Martin Luther King Jr., about how he turned the Declaration of Independence on his head when he said that 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, the Negro is still not free. But our Declaration of Independence says that we were born free. And that Thomas Jefferson got that from John Locke, that our freedom is an unalienable right given to us by God. It is irrevocable, non-transferable, and unsellable. It is ours. Government cannot touch it. It precedes the Constitution and the Declaration. It is ours. And Martin Luther King said 5 times in that speech that the Negro is not free. And even at the end of the speech, he says, "Free at last. One day we'll be free at last. Free at last. Thank God Almighty we'll be free at last." And we're already free. And that we force our children, black and white children, on King's birthday every year to recite that speech. That now they don't let them recite the Declaration of Independence because it says we have an unalienable right to be free from God. They can't call God in the public education system no more. But they can let King's speech go because King says we have to go to government for our freedom. And this is why you see the marching and the fighting and the envy. He says in that speech, "When will we be satisfied? We will never be satisfied, not until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream." Fancy way of saying never. And this is why you have all this animosity in the streets, all this envy, all this jealousy, all this hatred in the black community. Because King has become an icon. And when you read that speech and you really dissect it, you see it is the opposite of the Declaration of Independence all over the place. Government, 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 government. Never about the individual, never about God. And it has destroyed the black community, and it's destroying the white community too, and America as a whole. That speech needs to be ripped up and thrown in an ash heap.
So Vince, I'll play devil's advocate for a minute because I can hear what some people say. Well, you say Jefferson said those things, and some of our founders said those things, but they were slaveholders, Vince. And you would say what?
Slavery is a choice. Black people chose to be slaves, just like some of them chose to be free. There's a nice piece in my book, 25 Lies, about a place called Chubbtown. I saw this football player play for the Browns. His last name was Chubb. He was interesting because he didn't have any of the tattoos and any of the earrings. He was a clean-cut looking guy, good-looking young guy, played at Georgia. And I looked him up. I said, this young man, because he was just so different from everybody else. And he came from a town called Chubbtown, started by 7 free black men. And they made coffins, and they made liquor, and they sold to the white community, and they bought their stuff. Chubbtown became so successful that when Sherman came to Georgia during the Civil War to destroy Georgia and the South, he came to Chubbtown and let it stay. It's the only town in the South that Sherman did not destroy. And the white people in Georgia did not bother those free black men in Chubbtown because they respected them. You had free blacks down South. They were free because they were men. Our Bible tells us, slaves, obey your master. That proves that slavery is a choice because you have to choose your master. The Bible says you cannot have 2 masters. You will love one, hate the other. You will either be a slave to Christ or you'll be a slave to whomever else it is. But when you choose that master, you got to obey him. And many slaves chose a white man for their master then. They're choosing a white man for their master now. Black people choose the Democratic Party for their master. And I say, if that's your master, obey him. Do what he tells you to do. Castrate your little boys and call them little girls. Cut the breasts off your little girls and call them little boys. Kill your children in the womb. Send your children to schools that want to educate them. Let fentanyl and crack come across the border. Turn away from your God form. That's your master, obey him. My master is Jesus Christ. I've chosen to be a slave to Christ. Isn't that what our Bible tells us? So whenever somebody tells you that they made us be a slave, they say, no. You could have either killed your master or you could have died and went on to live with Jesus Christ. It is a choice.
Vince,
I don't care what they say, slavery is a choice.
Well,
just like freedom is a choice. And I've chosen to be a free man.
Vince Everett Ellison's book is called Crime, Inc., How Democrats Employ Mafia and Gangster Tactics to Gain and Hold Power. So I can hear the tweets and emails coming to me now. So let me just gently push again, only because, not to be argumentative, just to press on this point.
Please be argumentative. I can answer any question you got.
So people would say, when you say slavery was a choice back then, they say, but Vince, these were men and women in literal bondage, brought over in chains. They didn't choose to be in chains and chained in people's homes to do chores, is what I would imagine people would say.
Of course they did. You could choose death. That's what the founding fathers said when they signed that declaration, didn't they? They said, though this we bow our lives and our sacred honor. We'll die before we be a slave under King George. Didn't they say it?
Yes. So
didn't they say it? Didn't George Washington say right before he went across the Delaware to attack the British on Christmas Eve? They said, "What are the call signs, gentlemen?" What did he say? Victory or death? Didn't he?
He did.
That's why they are iconic. I will die before I be a slave. And you had too many black men say that I'll be a slave before I die.
Okay. I get you. Thank you for the clarification.
And this is the difference between so many of us and them. I have this great thing in my documentary and my books. Okay, you got the free men up north, right? Free black men up north. You got the slaves down south. Okay, you had 4,500,000 white people down south. You had 4 million slaves. You had about 200,000 free black men up north. Okay, Civil War comes. 87% of those free black men, 87% joined the Union Army. About 200,000 of them joined. All of them joined the Union Army. Of the 4 million people down south, about 1.5 million of them were black men that were of fighting age and ability. Only 5,000 after the Emancipation Proclamation left the South and joined the Union Army. Why? What's the difference? A slave mind versus a free man's mind. They stayed on the plantation and picked cotton for the Confederacy. They built the ramparts for the Confederacy. They built the ditches and the defenses for the Confederacy. Abraham Lincoln it necessitated the Emancipation Proclamation because he said the slaves are helping their masters win the war. This is a fact. They're digging the ditches. They're putting up the ramparts. They're building the defenses. While the free black men were coming out with guns to free them, they were helping their masters keep them enslaved. Ain't nothing changed. Not a damn thing.
Better than
still the same thing now.
You would say then better to die than submit to slavery.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
What is that? Is that some type of surprise or something?
Yeah. No,
hell yeah.
I get it. I just think it's
100 damn times, yeah.
You know what it is, and I think this is rooted in something similar. People's willingness to not exactly the same, so forgive the clumsy analogy. People's willingness to submit to COVID restrictions. So afraid of getting sick and dying, they were willing to shelve their freedoms to even assemble or move about because they didn't want to get sick. Right?
Because the mind of a free man is very, very rare. Very rare. These things don't come to people easily. That's why when you see people do it, it's such a marvelous thing to see someone stand alone in a crowd. Wherever everybody else is going one way, he says, no, I'm not going that way. When everybody else is doing something, well, he said, I don't do that. The man that can stand alone is an amazing man. Frederick Douglass was amazing because Frederick Douglass beat his master up and left. Harriet Tubman was amazing because Harriet Tubman not only freed herself, she went back and freed others. See, these people are amazing people, and most people are not amazing. They want to survive. And because of that, when you find people that understand that part of how the human mind works, they take advantage of that. So that's what they've done to black people and most Americans now. They make them dependent on government. They say, give me your freedom and I'll give you this. And people think you got yourself a deal. Ain't nothing more expensive than something that is free. And that's what Crime Inc. talks about. The Democratic Party is a criminal organization. They use these criminal techniques to keep people in control and to stay in power. They use these mafia communist techniques. The Marxist construct is built around the concept of keeping their constituency beat down, demoralized. The Chinese do it with the Uyghurs and the people over there. We saw how the Russians did. We see how Cuba does it with Castro. We see how Maduro does it down in Venezuela. It's no freedom. I will kill you if you don't do what I say. You eat what I tell you to eat. You get up when I tell you to get up. You go to school I tell you to go to. And if you show any backbone against me, I'm going to blow your brains out. That's communism. And that's the black community of the Democrat Party. You're going to do what I say do. You're going to go to school I tell you to go to. You're going to eat what I tell you to eat. You're going to live where I tell you to live. You're going to be, and I'm going to bring illegals into your community. I'm going to bring drugs in your community. I'm going to take away your right to keep and bear arms. I'm not going to let you pray to your God. So these people are under absolute control, and because they are completely demoralized, the Democratic Party can control them. So what do? Just like the mob, they control the unions. You know, they got them teachers' unions. It's just nothing but money laundering. They give the teachers pay raises. Teachers give money to the union. The union gives big campaign contributions to the Democratic Party. Over $100 million a year comes from the ATF and from the teachers' union. Well, the mafia makes money doing hits. Bugsy Siegel them was killing people, making money off of it. The mafia does that. Well, how does the Democratic Party make money off hits? Yeah, Planned Parenthood. They make sure Planned Parenthood gets over $500 million a year of government money. Planned Parenthood keeps that murder mill going. They got 1,500 crime incs, Planned Parenthood groups here inside the United States of America, and they kill over 1.5 million children a year. And each one of those hits, they get paid for it, and Planned Parenthood gives money to who? The Democratic Party. Well, look at the cartels down south. Yeah. How can they get the sex trafficking, the fentanyl, the human trafficking across their border? Democrats won't sell it. So how are they connected to the cartels? All these cartels, these billionaires, they got K Street lawyers right in D.C. that they pay. And these big K Street lawyers and lobbyists do what? They go to the Democratic Party, give campaign contributions, and they will not sell that border. They will not sell it. They're in with the drug dealers. So what do? They say, we're going to defund the police. Why? So you can sell your drugs. We're going to have cashless bail. Why? So all the little street hustlers can stay on the street selling those drugs. And then we're going to disarm the citizens. Why? So you can sell your drugs and do your criminal activity and then kick up to the Democratic Party, to the Chicago mayor, to the Chicago City Council. Yeah, we're going to let you run the streets. We're going to pimp our people out to you. Yeah, we're going to let you destroy them. And then they groom the children, just like the Crips and the Bloods do. They catch them young. How does the Democratic Party do it? They do it with the public education system. Oh, ain't no ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, man. They sexually grooming children. They castrating little boys, calling them little girls. They giving children prepared for sexual activity with the North American Men Boy Love Association, all these weirdos and perverts in the Democrat Party. It's a criminal organization. It's an immoral organization. It's controlled by alcoholic perverts, liars, psychopaths, and anti-Christian bigots. And no man of honor would vote for this group of degenerates.
Wow. You have so beautifully woven all of that together in a way I've never heard. I mean, you see, it's the way you just laid that out, you see this perfect linkage. You can see it on a flow chart. We talk about all those things as individual problems. You've stitched them together in almost a complete circle. It's really remarkable. And the book has 12 chapters of it. It shows you how they it's a chicken or the egg thing. The criminals make the Democratic Party, or the Democratic Party make criminals. But they are a crime family. And people talk about how you got Republicans fighting there right now, talking about the speaker. Well, see, that's because they're not controlled. Everybody has to go back to their constituency. But in the mob, the Don, you tell them what to do, and everybody says lockstep. And if you get in line, you get whacked. That's been, Vince, I'm so glad you said that. I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, I like the fact that people have individual thought and are fighting for their leadership as opposed to, monolithic thinking on the Democrat side. They do what they're told. That's it.
They're a crime family. Yeah. You better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the Don.
Yeah.
I'm the Don. You do what the Don says. And nobody gets out of line. They vote in lockstep. They do what the Don says do. It's an organized crime. That's why it's organized crime. It's organized. He says we're going to vote to give. Look, they voted to in lockstep.
Yeah.
To not support a bill that would allow children who survived abortions to get medical care. Every Democrat voted against it. Every last one of them. Every last one. They voted against school choice. Every last one of them. Oh, yeah. They vote in. If it's something about LGBTQ, allowed to give federal money to castrate children, oh, yeah, they vote in lockstep, all of them together. They don't care what their constituents believe or say, especially the Black caucuses. Hell, they don't care because their constituents don't give them any money to run for office. These poor Black districts give no money. This money comes from Hollywood. This money comes from Wall Street. And it goes to the top, to the Don. And the Don says, if you do what you say, you get your cut.
Vince,
if you don't do what you say, we're going to whack you.
Vince Everett Ellison's book is called Crime Inc., How Democrats Employ Mafia and Gangster Tactics to Gain Power and Hold Power. You're a man of deep, abiding faith. I think I've asked you this question before, but I'm curious again. How would you describe members of the church today, generally, particularly in Black communities, if you want to call it the Black church experience? I always thought, and maybe naively, I don't know, I always thought that the thing that maybe conservatives had in common with Black churches, as well as Latino, by the way, in many cases, a real sense of family, generally, and traditional, at least if you want mores. I always thought the LGBTQ scene was kind of antithetical to the Black church experience, as well as a lot of Latinos. I don't know how you see it from a spiritual perspective in Black America today.
Yeah, the Black church is perfect. The Black pastor is an apostate. Most of them are. Not every last one of them, but most of them are. And it came from Martin Luther King Jr., Civil Rights Movement, when Martin Luther King Jr. Was kicked out of the Black church in 1961 for bringing the Marxists, but trying to take over the National Baptist Convention for the Marxists and the Civil Rights Movement. Stanley Levinson gave them his marching orders, and Stanley Levinson was the number one communist in America. I talk about this in Crime Inc., so when people get it, you'll read about all of this. But King was kicked out of the Black church in 1961. He started a fight on the convention floor in Kansas City trying to take over the National Baptist Convention. He lost. He killed a preacher in the process. Yeah, a preacher got murdered on the floor of the National Baptist Convention.
Wow.
In my movie, Will You Go to Hell for Me, I talk about this in depth. So King was excommunicated. So what did King do? He started his own religion. See, a lot of people don't know that. They think Martin Luther King Jr. was a Baptist minister. He was not. He was a progressive Baptist minister. He started his own religion and called it the Progressive National Baptist Convention. And you can look this up because that's the same that Warnock belongs to, the senator from Georgia. And this group is a bunch of apostate perverts who believe in LGBTQ, believe in all this stuff. Well, since King was making so much noise in the streets, people thought that this was the Black church that was doing this. No, it was just Martin Luther King Jr., his group of morons. So finally, when King got killed, everybody just jumped on his bandwagon. And they brought in this concept in the Black church called Black liberation theology. Black liberation theology is an apostate concept. It's an apostasy. But what it states is this: Jesus Christ would not have identified with white people because white people were oppressors. He would identify with Black people because Black people were oppressed. And it's a Marxist construct. I talk about that in my book also, how this Black liberation theology, which 80% of Black churches teach now, came from a Marxist construct, and they wanted to make Jesus Christ kind of a Marxist communist entity. And so this is where all the no justice, no peace, all the marching, all the social justice, they don't care anything about Jesus Christ. Baptism, saving the soul, the ecclesiastical matters that the Black community really, really relished before the Civil Rights Movement. Now the Black church has become an arm of the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party is an anti-Christian organization because it's Marxist. So you have this thing, and this is what my movie talks about, Will You Go to Hell for Me? I ask people, very simply, that when the Democratic Party asks the Christian to vote for them, they're asking that Christian to go to hell for them. Because you're asking them to vote for a party that's going to abort children up to the 9th month. Again, castrate little boys and call them little girls. Take away your right to defend yourself. Take God out of the public square. Say if you kneel at a football game to denounce your government, the Democrats will applaud you. But if you kneel to pray to Jesus Christ, they want to put you in jail. See, that's them. And yet you're a Christian and you vote for this party, you're going to go to hell. Now, all of your listeners can go to VinceEellison.com. That's VinceEellison.com. 3 E's in the middle. You can see my books, you can read my blogs, and you can look at the trailer for my documentary. And it's the best trailer that you've ever seen. And once you see that trailer, you're going to have to buy it because it talks about things. It shakes the Christian community and tells them that you cannot vote for this party and think that you're going to be in the presence of God. And when God said that you vote for a party that told you that if they won, that they were going to kill a million children that year, and you said, yes, I did. He said, get away from me. Why? Because you're complicit in murder. They told you they were going to kill them. It's not like you didn't know. They told you that if you vote for me, I'm going to kill these children. And you said, okay, I'm going to vote for you. You're complicit in murder. No way around it. So they want you to believe there's some type of severability between your vote and your person. It's not. And these black preachers are all involved in it because they get paid by the Democrat Party. And that started in the civil rights movement. And they initiated this apostasy. And it's been around ever since. And how do I know? Well, Jesus told his disciples, how do you know a false prophet? He said, you know them by the fruit, just like you know a tree by the fruit it bears. He said, you will not get bad fruit from a good tree, a good fruit from a bad tree. Each tree and its fruit will be out after its own. Look at what they produce, not by what they say or do. And if you look at the black community today, 5 times more men in jail than it was in the 60s, family destroyed, poverty, fighting, dope, marching, acting a damn fool in the streets, burning up stuff. If the black community is rotten, the tree it came from is rotten. And the tree is the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King Jr. You can't get around it. We made more progress in 100 years after slavery than we've had in the last 50 years. We've gone backwards. We've forgotten God. We've forgotten family. We've forgotten community. And we celebrate it. Why? We have an apostate mind. Don't even know what right is any longer. And all that came from the civil rights movement asking government and not God to show us our way. And government is always an oppressor. So that's why I tell you slavery is a choice. The joker can walk off the plantation and stay on it. And he chooses to stay.
All right.
He's a slave.
This conversation is worth more than 50 shots of espresso as far as I'm concerned. If I had you as like my morning alarm clock, that's all I'd need. I don't need coffee anymore if I talk to you every day, Vince Everett Ellison.
Hey, man, this is me 20 hours a day.
Will You Go to Hell for Me was the reason we originally spoke a while back, the film. And your website, again, if people want to, not just your book, which is out now called Crime Inc., How Democrats Employ Mafia and Gangster Tactics to Gain and Hold Power. You say they can see your film and all your other books and works, too, at your website, right, Vince? Yeah,
VinceEllison.com. The book and the trailer to the film is there.
My friend, I thank you so much for your time and the fire you bring. I would guess many in this audience, I'll speak for myself. You said some things today that I really have kind of knocked me back. I've got to think on them because I've never really thought the way you just spoke. I'm glad to have been challenged that way. Thank you.
Well, that's what I do, man. I am a challenger, and I want you people to go buy my books now because if you read the reviews on them, they knock people's socks off. It changes the paradigm. Watch that Tucker interview also on X, or you can go on YouTube now and see it. It's everywhere. You can go on TikTok and see it, Facebook and see it. Everybody's talking about it because I did the same thing there. I changed the paradigm of how people have been thinking for the past 70 years. People have been walking around wondering what's going on in America. I answered the question. And I say, now it's up to you to change it. Now you know what's wrong with you. Are you man enough? Are you brave enough to change it?
Thank you, Vince.
My pleasure, my friend.
Cheryl Chumley, our great friend at the Washington Times, authored a fantastic book called Lockdown, The Socialist Plan to Take Away Your Freedom. She's back. We love to read her work. It always catches our eye, and when we get a couple usually that we like back to back, we'll dial her up, and she's always generous with her time to talk. Cheryl, good morning.
Hi, Chris. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I wonder if you are as delighted as I am about the words heretofore, and I always have to caution, caveat, because I got a lot of people that are already being very pessimistic. He's going to disappoint. But I'm just saying right now, to date, as we review the words, actions, and votes of Mike Johnson, are you as delighted as I am to hear his public profession of faith as the new Speaker of the House?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised. And like most in America, my first reaction was, who's this guy? Yeah. And it turns out to be, what a great pick, right?
Yeah.
I was with Jim Jordan all the way. And then I was really disappointed when he didn't get it vote after vote. And then Mike Johnson, who's that? And so I did some quick research on him. And not only is he coming from a position of faith, right, but also very limited constitutional governance. He was on board with fighting on behalf of Trump for the election recount. So the left is going to have a field day criticizing him, which only means even more how great he is for our side.
Yes, and it's what I was saying earlier this morning is CNN and MSNBC are reviewing his past writings and his belief as a Christian, and I have to chuckle. It's like they're discovering what Scripture says for the first time. You know, their heads are on fire because he's a devout Christian and says so. All the while, not at all alarmed at the marching anti-Semitism growing in the streets every day on their side.
Exactly. Look to the college campuses, right, if they want a cause. I mean, Christianity and Christians are not the ones calling for violence and intolerance and so forth. And the fact that I think that he's going to stand strong for his faith is really the number one thing America needs right now, because with all the political problems we have, everything that's going on with the economy and the weakness in this White House that has sparked all this discord and tension and war overseas, we need American leaders who put God first, because that is the solution to what ails our country. And I'm so happy that he just kicked off his leadership with a bold, open prayer.
Yeah, and there have been photos circulating of some of these guys kneeling on the House floor in prayer. Oh, that really makes them mad, Cheryl. They don't like seeing that.
I know. It's great. It's almost like America is having this reawakening of the need for our founding father principles, which started with the Creator, right, where our rights come from as individuals. And then from that flowed all our constitutional rights and government.
You have a couple of pieces at the Washington Times. The reason for your invitation today: Democrats reward illegals while destroying America. It is the most amazing thing to watch a wide open border that we all know is wide open, and now hear people on the left, your Eric Adamses and your Kathy Hochul's, screeching for help. This isn't sustainable. We need help. But all the while, they continue to take the position of sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. But they're kind of reaping what they sow now.
Yeah, it's baffling to me. On one hand, they support the sanctuary status of their states and communities. And on the other hand, when illegals take advantage of that sanctuary status, they're the first and loudest to cry about it. But this has always been a puzzle to me, how Democrats and leftists operate, that things that happen, that they bring about, they don't care about until it directly impacts them. And there have been people on the border 20 years now suffering under Democrats' open border policies, and slowly, and especially under Barack Obama and now Joe Biden, a little more quickly, that open border has been spreading its influence north and west and east of the border, and now it's infiltrating the Democrat-run areas. And they're finally awakening to the idea: oh wow, these illegals, they sort of cause some trouble. That not all of them come here for jobs. Some of them are criminals, and now they want to cry. On one hand, it's just due. You're getting what you deserve. But on the other hand, this is still our country. And without border control, it won't be long before we are completely overrun and our law and order system is completely capsized.
I was also very glad to read your write-up about not just technology with young people, but you also reference our friends Sam and Kevin Sorbo. We're actually going to talk to Kevin here in a little bit, this hour, about Miracle in East Texas, their new film. But I know what advocates they are for homeschooling, actually. Sam is, if you're familiar with her work on her podcast, it's her life's passion. So the Sorbos are, I think, right with you on this issue of technology.
They are. And Sam was just on my podcast. I think it's posted now, as a matter of fact. And we discussed in part some of her education reforms, which you're right, that's her passion. And then secondary is the film aspect, faith-based films. And if we don't get a hold of the education of the upcoming leaders of America, the younger generations, then it won't matter if we have border control. It won't matter, about our economy. It won't matter anything, because the next generation is being taught to hate America, to think that our governing documents are inherently racist just because they were slave owners who, at the time, forged these documents, and that socialism/communism is really the way to go in America. So, if we don't get the youth of America properly educated to be patriotic citizens who want to carry the constitutional limited government principles forward in America, it won't matter elections. Nothing else will matter.
Hey, don't worry, though, Cheryl, because Jill Biden is coming to Philadelphia today. No, Jill Biden's got it.
Lord.
It's okay. Dr. Jill, teaching is her passion. Dr. Jill is coming to Philadelphia, and she's announcing today, on this day, the day the Federalist Papers were published in 1787, she's coming to celebrate a new partnership with Nickelodeon to announce a new animated kids show that will have the kids singing about civics. So it'll all work out, I'm sure.
What? You know what? When they arrive, you keep them, okay? You keep them there. You can do without in D.C.
Do you mean you're dubious that Dr. Jill partnering with Nickelodeon to make a cartoon about civics may not be what you and I have in mind? Is that what you mean? You're dubious?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Joe Biden is a walking cartoon, so maybe it will be a success. I don't know.
Well, the prism through which they see civics is, white oppression, right? That's what the Democrat Party. I mean, I can't imagine what a cartoon from Nickelodeon and the Bidens is going to be about. But it's not going to be celebration of our founding or first principles or natural rights. You can bet that.
No, this is training the young minds, right? The impressionable youngest of minds in America to hate America from an early age.
Yeah.
And look, if it's anything like I happen to look through the Cartoon Network Twitter account, X account in recent days, and I was shocked at some of the cartoons that they put out there that are rated for 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds, our youngest kids. It's amazing to me the rot and the not so subtle sexual grooming that goes on in the cartoon world nowadays. So Jill Biden adding in her 2 cents on hating America, that's kind of a double whammy between Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon.
She's Cheryl Chumley, and worth a read. Every time you see her name, read what she's written. Online opinion editor at the Washington Times, on X, formerly Twitter, C.K. Chumley. C.K. Chumley, spelled just as it sounds. Cheryl, have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
The Chris DeGaulle Show Podcast.